Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right everybody, thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books and I'll let you know what I thought about them, and I ain't kidding. I mean, a lot of comics. We have a giant stack. I actually think that February's been pretty lackluster as far as comic books go. All of it's out this week, like so many great titles. In fact, it was a huge battle for the pick of the week because we got Ice Cream Man, we got 20th Century Men, we got Junkyard Joe, we got Once Upon a Time at the End of the World, we've got Saga, we got so many books. So what did win out? What did become the pick of the week? Well, we always start with the pick of the week, and this week's pick of the week, 20th Century Men, number 6. Now, I'm telling y'all, there are a lot of fantastic comic books out this week. But I went with 20th Century Men because I can't think of a comic book in recent memory that has stuck the landing, stuck the landing on the ending, that has nailed the conclusion of a story quite as well as 20th Century Men. This has been a very, very profoundly written book by Dennis Camp, a book about war. It's playing with superhero archetypes, but it's going so much further beyond that, doing something truly that's wearing its inspirations, but at the same time carving out its own unique vision and voice. And that is aided by S. Morian on the artwork, shifting up the style, shifting up the composition, from page to page and sometimes from panel to panel, doing whatever it takes to get the job done. It's hyper-violent, it's incredibly resonant with its message, and this was the best issue yet, and it was the final issue, and I'm sad to see us leave this world, but the way that this story ends left me in such a place kind of filled with, obviously, the awareness of the destructiveness of war, but then the potential and hope of what could come after. I adored this book. Plus, you got a bit of car on the lettering. This, and I've said this before, but since this is the final issue of 20th Century Man, it's the last time I get to say it, talking about it issue to issue. This is what a comic book looks like when everybody making it gives a damn about making an exceptionally well-crafted comic. 20th Century Men, pick of the week. Wow. Then we got Local Man, issue number 1. This is a new one from Tony Fleece and Tim Seeley, Brad Simpson as well. I had to get that 90s retroed out foil holographic type cover. Love this. This is a nice throwback to 90s comics, but it doesn't feel like a 90s comic. It feels very grounded. It feels very modern and contemporary. Now, Tony Fleece, I'm used to seeing him draw very cartoony, My Little Ponies, little doggies, things like that. The artwork in this book is amazing. At the back, there's like this really extreme version of like a 90s image comic that's done by Tim Seeley, but this book really worked. What it is this dude, I can't remember the name of the character right now, but this dude is he's a former superhero from the 90s image days. Now, I don't think this is a real character, like, from those days, but there's a lot of references to him being there back in the day, but I loved it. But something has happened, everybody has turned on him, they hate him, and he's having to go back home to his small town and live with his mom and dad, so he's now the local man, right? But I love it. I love this flip book idea behind it. I thought that it was a rather grounded story that had that modern sensibility, but had a lot of fun with some of those 90s tropes, so I really did like that. Thought that was top-notch. Then we got Ice Cream Man. Ice Cream Man with issue number 34. This, if you think Ice Cream Man may have been a bit too introspective, a bit too depressing lately, you want it to kind of get back into those kind of weird, quirky, but not so meta kind of commentaries, right? If you want a book going back to that, that's what this one is. Issue 34 tells the story of these two like homeless people that are like ride on trains, go from town to town. They're vagrants, right? Whatever you want to call them. But it's about them. What do they call them? Two tramps. Tramps, that's what they call, like Lady and the Tramp. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, so it's a story about these two tramps, and you take that how you will. But it has a connection to the overarching story of Ice Cream Man. It's thread in there a little bit, a little subtly, and sometimes not so much so. But I really like this story. It kind of felt more like those mid-level, or like if Ice Cream Man is 34 issues, like towards the middle of the run when they were doing some really great stories like this. So this is a really solid issue of Ice Cream Man. It does get away from some of the meta super depressiveness of the last few, but it does kind of bring it back into focus, back on the path, and I really enjoyed it. Thought it was a great one. Then we got Junkyard Joe, issue number 5. Y'all, hit after hit after hit. Junkyard Joe number 5 continues to be one of the best comics on shelves. This might be Jeff Johns' best work. He is able to do so much with so little. Junkyard Joe's the story of a GI robot from Vietnam who's dealing with some trauma from that, and he is reunited with one of the surviving members of his company from the Vietnam days. This dude, by the way, has made a name for himself as a cartoonist doing a comic strip called Junkyard Joe. So then there's this family that's just moved in next to this dude. He's dealing with the death of his wife, still kind of reeling in that. And then you got Junkyard Joe dealing with his own trauma. And then you got the threat rising up. And then you got Gary Frank and Brad Anderson just absolutely killing it on the artwork. Like super precise, super intentional. Such a great freaking comic. Junkyard Joe number 5. Killed it. Killed it again. Then we got Saga, issue 62, another fantastic issue of Saga. Yet again, we get this major revelation, or this major promise at the end of the last issue. One of the best things that Saga does is the cliffhanger issue to issue. Brian K. Vaughan knows how to do that so meticulously well. In this one, they pick up from that last jaw-dropping moment in the last issue, and the way they resolved that was really kind of nuanced and human, and I really appreciated that, and I love this book. It always gives us just enough to crank up the story, to crank up the tension, to build up those characters, and to get things excited, and it never feels like things are not progressing in the pages of Saga, and that does not slip away with issue 62. Then we got Lovesick, issue number 5. The book that, y'all, I like some gnarly stuff, right? But this book is unsettling to me. It's slightly disturbing. It is dealing with this woman named Domino, right? And she's like this dominatrix, right? And she goes to on like the dark web, and she has these like followers that want to be like humiliated and killed and devoured by her. And in these last couple issues, we've been diving into Domino's past, how she got to where she is, what was it that she dealt with leading up to this. There's some really gnarly stuff. This book is definitely not for everybody. It is violently sexy. It is sensually gory. It is such a weird book that tickles a bone inside of me I didn't quite know I had, and now that I know it's there, I think I'm just going to keep reading Lovesick. I don't need to scratch this itch too much, if you know what I'm saying. Cannibalism's not that sexy to me. Anyway, Lovesick number 5, another great unsettling comic by Luana Faccio. Really good stuff. Then we got Plush, issue number 4. Hit after hit after hit yet again. Plush by Doug Wagner. Is it Dennis or Damon Hilliard? I always forget the name. This book's great. It's about cannibals again. Cannibals, Daniel Hilliard. So this is about cannibals and furries. Okay, and so it's this dude who has a crappy love life, he's got a crappy home life, and his buddy just says, hey, come with me to a furry party, and we're gonna, like, take care of all of this, right? That's what he's saying. And so then, while he's there, he witnesses these furries showing up and murdering people and eating people. Now he's kind of like wrapped up into their gang, into their criminal gang, and he's kind of connecting with one of them. And this is actually a very sweet issue. It's got that humor that you're expecting from Doug Wagner, that you're expecting from a collaboration with Daniel Hilliard. It's got that, but it also is actually a very sweet and romantic story about furry cannibals. So there you go. Then we got Spawn Unwanted Violence, issue number 2. I really liked this book. This is the conclusion. It is set in some import as to what's going on with Spawn in general, but it also just has this nice core story of Spawn getting involved in like a protest, and Spawn standing there against the authority for everybody doing the protesting, and that was some really cool stuff. And I think it's one of the best Todd McFarlane written scripts I've read in a very long time. The artwork by Mike Del Mundo was absolutely fantastic, and Freak finds out some stuff that does set up some of the scale and scope of what's to come in the pages of Spawn books. Then we got Scorched, issue number 15 out this week. This is written by Sean Lewis with additional plotting and dialogue by Todd McFarlane, Steven Sokovia on the artwork, and just like Spawn is supposed to, it gives you these nice double-page splashes with big action. Right now, you've got inner turmoil amongst the Scorched team. Everybody's kind of fighting amongst each other. Gunslingers trying to quit. She-Spawn's being held accountable for not fulfilling her promises. You got Medieval Spawn trying to go medieval on that ass, you know what I'm saying? And I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Right now, the Spawn books, they do feel like they were kind of percolating for a while, but now it's really starting to boil over, and things are getting set up more and more and put in the right place, and Scorched is one of those books doing it, and I thought about it, and I'm giving Pick of the Week to Scorched number 15. I like Simon Bianchi, but I wouldn't call myself necessarily a huge Simon Bianchi fan. However, this cover right there is dope and wall-worthy, so it makes it Cover of the Week worthy. Let's jump over to DC.
Hey there, everybody. This Wednesday, February 22nd, we have more, ta-da, Darkwing Duck and Gargoyles in stores. It's so exciting. Both series have been a huge hit, and I'm really excited to show you what we got coming up. So let's start off with Darkwing Duck number 2 from writer Amanda Deaver and art by Carlo Loro. And for our fantastic regular covers, we have David Nakayama, Mirka Andolfo, Lyrics Lee, Jacob Edgar, Trish Forstner, and George Kavadias. That one looks really, really cool. And for the incentive covers, oh god, don't let me be like Nick and mess it up. Okay, anyway, for the incentive covers, we have from Carlo Loro himself, we have John Blair Moore, we have more Carlo Loro, Cat Staggs, and Ken Hazer, killing it as always. And let's keep going with Gargoyles number 3 from series writer Greg Weisman and art by George Kavadias. And we have more fantastic covers from David Nakayama. We have the fantastic Amanda Connor, Lucio Parillo, more Lyrics Lee, Jay Lee, one of my personal faves, and Tony Flex and Trish Forstner. Beautiful, beautiful covers. And for the incentives, we have more George Kavadias, more Amanda Connor. That is cool. We have Brett Schoonover. I always have to make sure I want to say names right, so if I'm wrong, correct me. Brett Schoonover and Alberto Silva, and again, more from the incredible Ken Hazer. It's going to be an incredible week for these books, so please go check them out at your local comic book store. Like, share, subscribe. Please support the community, and thanks for watching. See you next time.
And from DC, we have Superman number 1. That's right, a brand new Superman series, this time written by Joshua Williamson with the first issue, illustrated by Jamal Campbell. The artwork in this book is absolutely amazing. One of the first things I want to highlight is the artwork. I always criticize Superman books when they don't have the right perspective or sense of grandiose majesty that I think a Superman book should have when it doesn't have this dynamic quality. Jamal Campbell brings that in like 100%. Here in the pages of Superman, and the story is really cool. Picking up off stuff that happened in Action 1050, Joshua Williamson is setting up like new threats, new established worlds and things like that. Basically, what I'm trying to say is he's setting up a very interesting story in which LexCorp is now trying to actively help Superman, and I don't want to spoil what goes on in the pages here, but it's very intriguing. I love the way Josh Williamson is writing Lex Luthor, and I like the way he writes Superman. He understands it, and this book gets the sense of scale and scope that it's supposed to. It feels action-packed and heavy. It utilizes actual threatening rogues like Livewire. I always love a nice Livewire spotlight in a Superman comic, you know, created for that Superman animated series. She has the potential to be a Harley Quinn level success if we could utilize her right. Maybe Josh Williamson's got some plans for her. I don't know. I hope you do. Also got this nice wraparound cover. Luthor is a prevalent focus here. I also like that, but he's not the main threat, though he is, but not really. I really loved this book. I thought it was a cool start for a new direction for Superman. Then we get Lazarus Planet Omega. This is the conclusion of Lazarus Planet, but not really. It actually concludes in Batman vs. Robin number 5. So I don't like you telling me that a book is an Omega if it ain't an epilogue or an ending. And that ain't what this is. Plus, there's a Lazarus Planet like 4-issue series coming out. Whatever. All that being said, Lazarus Planet was a cool idea, but it never quite was executed to its fullest potential. It was utilized mostly to kind of tweak some things, spotlight some things, put some new things in a different light, and introduce some new concepts. And that's pretty much what we got over the series of one-shots. This goes back to that initial Alpha one-shot, continuing that story. So maybe it would be better if you read Batman vs. Robin, then read the Alpha, the Omega, and then the conclusion of Batman vs. Robin. But for me, it kind of fell flat, didn't feel exciting, and never had the weight and the gravity that an event like that was supposed to have. Then we got Batman One Bad Day Clayface. I was really nervous about these One Bad Day books when they first started. I didn't really like the Riddler one. It was okay. Didn't really like the Two-Face one at all, but then it started cranking up a little bit. Penguin was pretty good. Mr. Freeze was amazing. Bane was phenomenal. It is hot in here. Like, it was 70-something degrees, and I have yet to turn on my AC because I'm like, no, I'm going to hold out, right? I'm going to hold out. It's winter. I'm going to hold out. Man, I am freaking sweating. Anyway, Catwoman and Bane were good. Clayface was exceptional. So this is by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing with artwork by Hermonico. I love the artwork. I love the story too. This is one of the best Clayface stories I have ever read. And if you're doing something that's kind of like a tribute to the Killing Joke, but utilizing the other villains in Batman's Rogues Gallery, that's what I want. I want to read one of the best Bane stories I've ever read. It was alright. It wasn't one of the best, but it was really solid. But I have read one of the best Mr. Freeze stories I've read so far in One Bad Day, and definitely the best Clayface stuff. I love it. Taking Clayface, James Tynion and company did some really good work with the character of Clayface in their Detective Comics run, kind of turning him a little bit more into a hero a little bit, and this one goes right back into like this murderous psychosis inside of Carlo that is just absolutely phenomenal. I love the way it's done. The one thing I can nitpick is that structure-wise, it feels like too much happens too soon at certain times, and it could have been paced and evened out just a little bit better, but I loved a lot of the ideas in the structure of the story, how it was relating to a Hollywood script, how they were talking about LA, and how it wrapped up. It was a good book. It was a good book. Kind of scary, actually, too. Then we got Batman Superman World's Finest, issue number 12. This is a self-contained one-and-done type story, but it's very cutesy, very charming, and it's like a throwback to like old-school comics, right? But this is the untold story of the first and only date between Dick Grayson Robin and Kara Zor-El Supergirl. And it seems like maybe they would hit it off, right? But let's just say they don't, right? That's the whole bit. You see it here on the cover. They have a bad first date. And it was a really cool kind of cutesy way to look at it. The artwork was pretty solid. It, like I said, it had a charm to it. It felt very old school. Mark Waid is really good at doing stuff like that. And I love the way he writes Supergirl in particular. Then we got Nightwing 101. 101. Nightwing 101. Here we go. $4.99 because they've added a backup story. That kind of pisses me off. I hate that. Hey, Marvel did it this week, too. We'll talk about that. Nightwing 101, it's $1 more for a backup story that was okay, I guess, with Superman, Son of Kal-El. It was all right. The main story is decent enough, basically kind of continuing on the promise and the developments from the last issue of Nightwing and, of course, Dark Crisis, where the Titans are meant to be like the new Justice League, and Nightwing's supposed to be like the architect of like in charge of the heroes of the DC universe and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of dwelling a little bit on that. Also, kind of referencing and spotlighting some stuff that was set up in like Nightwing number 98, which is that awesome, like, what was it, Nightbite, Nightwing, whatever the hell the imp's name was, but that was a fun, cute little issue. This one is all right. It's all right. It doesn't have Bruno Redondo, but it does have Travis Moore. Artwork's pretty cool. We got Neron. That's awesome. Flash is here with $7.93. I really do like what Jeremy Adams is doing in the pages of Flash right now. However, this 1 Minute War, as much as I'm digging it, this one was kind of like the weakest issue of it so far. There was just a lot of talking, a lot of explaining and exposition, and it just never felt like it had that momentum. And I'm like, yo, this is all supposed to be happening in 1 minute, man. We need to be fast, right? And this one kind of slowed down, maybe a little bit too much for me. I also thought the artwork was all right. It just kind of, I don't know. There was nothing. There was no motion. There was no movement in this issue. It just kind of felt like it stalled out just a little bit, just a tad. Speaking of stalling out, Black Adam issue number 8. Priest's storytelling and structure can sometimes be a bit challenging, and when you reread it in one sum, it can really reward it, right? But sometimes the faulty point of that is when you're reading it as it's published, as it's being released, sometimes you feel like you have weak issues with like disconnection, right? And this one kind of felt like a disconnected issue. It is part of the story, though, to lull down and kind of reveal a bit of the past of Black Adam, but it just didn't quite connect to me or work. And I'm sure that maybe when I sit down and reread this after it's all said and done, if I find the time, maybe this one kind of fits into the overall narrative just a bit better. But Black Adam number 8 was just okay. Then we got GCPD, The Blue Wall, issue number 5. This is one of the best written comics DC has. This is awesome. This is a great spiritual successor to Gotham Central. It's about these 3 new police officers. They all have dealt with their own struggles throughout the course of the previous 4 issues. And for some, they have to give up. And for some, they want to continue. And others just go and do some terrible things. This is an in-continuity story that has some major ramifications and effects to some major characters in the GCPD, most namely Renee Montoya. There's some big deal things going on with her character, and Two-Face as well. I love this book. It's incredibly well written. It is grounded. It feels real. It's brutally real, right? And there ain't no superhero saving the people from what's going on, and it's a really intricate, dense, and I think rather resounding and resonating exploration on some of its themes. So GCPD, The Blue Wall, man, I love that book. Superman the Space Age here with issue number 3. First of all, the artwork is amazing. It's the Allreds doing what the Allreds do, which is just top-notch, fantastic artwork. I will say that I was slightly disappointed in the conclusion. Not that I was disappointed in the conclusion. I think this was a solid story. I liked the approach to it. I think this would have been better off being called, I don't know, Superman is a main focus, but it does focus so much on the other members of the Justice League at times that it kind of throws me off, and I feel like it does lose its focus here and there. Now, the artwork maintains its Silver Age quality. It maintains this, like, hopeful optimism, this retro-type vibe and feel. That's what we come to love and expect from Mike and Laura Allred. And Mark Russell is doing a good job here, but sometimes some things are too tongue-in-cheeky, some things are too serious, and it just doesn't ever quite strike that perfect balance that I felt issue number 1 had. So I feel like this series never quite lived up to the promise of issue number 1, but I still enjoyed it, and I will pick up anything that the Allreds are attached to. Then we got DCeased, War of the Undead Gods, issue number 6. How can Tom Taylor make this story any bigger? You don't think DCeased can get bigger, then it keeps getting bigger, and now it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. Like, I don't want to spoil what's going on here, but we have some of the most powerful, some of the most godlike beings of the DC universe right now being infected with the anti-life equation, and you got Darkseid and all of Apocalypse and New Genesis coming after. This is big, it's epic, and it's got this sense of humanity to it, right? This tragedy, but it's not just the tragedy, it's the hope, it's the optimism, and Tom Taylor's doing such a great job of utilizing legacy characters in DCeased and doing some interesting things with it. Holy cow, is that book awesome. Let's jump over to Marvel.
Hey there, Dynamite fans. We got 2 great books coming your way this Wednesday, February 22nd, and I cannot wait to show them off to you, so let's take a quick look. We have Vampirella Strikes, issue 10 from writer Tom Snigoski and art by Jonathan Lau with amazing, amazing covers from Lucio Perillo, who always kills it, Steven Segovia, Jung Yoon Yoon, Jonathan Lau himself, incredible cosplay from Miss Rachel Holland. We have an incentive from Mike Mayhew, and we have alternate incentive covers. You know, tint for Lucio Perillo, Ultraviolet, black and white for Steven Segovia, and more. And we also have a new book coming out, Draculina Blood Simple. That looks very deadly. It's from writer Christopher Priest and art by Michael Santamaria with incredible covers from Jay Anacleto. Again, the creepy one. I think I'll have to buy that one. We have, as always, great work from Joseph Michael Linsner. We have Raphael Kayanin. If I'm messing that up, someone correct me. We have Zoe Lashai, that is really, really cool. More cosplay from Miss Rachel Holland. We have an incentive from Lucio Perillo, Michael Santamaria himself, and incredible incentives, Ultraviolet, line art, black and white. If you want to get one of those, searching a local comic book store. Really just search for all these covers because they're incredible. So please check them out. Like, share, subscribe, and remember, these come out February 22nd. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
And from Marvel, we have Sins of Sinister, Immoral X-Men #1. All right, I'm going to be brutally honest here about this one, right? The Sins of Sinister one-shot that kicked everything off, I thought was intriguing. I thought it had some interesting ideas. The idea that Sinister has put a bit of himself every time he's cloned one of the X-Men when they've been resurrected, one of the mutants, so they eventually he has like a Sinister coup and takes over Krakoa and then starts taking over the world, and it's like the Age of Apocalypse, but it's like the Age of Sinister, but it's the Sins of Sinister because it's more alliterative. And that's cool. And that's fine. And it was interesting. And then the Storm and the Brotherhood book, that was interesting. The Nightcrawlers book was not so interesting. And I'll be honest, in Immoral X-Men, I was bored all the way through. It was incredibly dull. They were trying to spotlight White Queen, and it's a different version of White Queen, and it's got a bit of humor to it, and Sinister's a big spotlight too, and there's some big things that should have been like, whoa, jaw-dropping moments, but it was just so wordy, so dialogue-heavy, so stiff and stagnant. It had no excitement and no energy. I did not like it. And in fact, I don't know if I want to continue on reading any of the Sins of Sinister stuff at this point. I was excited to dive in and go along on the ride. But I don't know, Immoral X-Men was not for me. We'll see how I feel when the next issue of whatever comes out. What's it going to be? It's probably going to be Storm again. No, it's Nightcrawlers. Then it's Immoral X-Men. Before we get back to the one that I thought was more intriguing, we got two... Oh. Then we got Doctor Strange Fall Sunrise, issue #4. This is the final issue. By the way, they are doing a treasury-sized edition of this, and I am so pumped for that. FOC was this week, so let your shop know if you want it, because it is going to be worth seeing this artwork at that scale, at that size, because the artwork is amazing. This is some of the best art in a Marvel comic in a long time. And, you know, Trad Moore's very stylized. It's not going to be to everybody's individual taste, but this is exactly what I love. This is bold, it's different, it's daring, and it is sophisticated on a level that not many mainstream artists are even attempting to attain right now, right? That being said, no clue what the hell's going on in this story. No clue. Like, in issue 1, I was like, all right, it's trippy, it's psychedelic, I'm just going to roll with it. Then it starts kind of like trying to do something in 2 and 3. I'm lost. I'm out of it. I read every word in this book. No clue what the hell's going on. No clue at all. Know that I love the artwork, though, and I'm getting that Treasury edition, I'll tell you that. Then we got Savage Avengers here with issue #10. This is the final issue of David Pepose on Savage Avengers. He's done a great job with this title. He has to come in, first of all, take over a book that had a very successful run. Conan going to the modern day, joining a version of the Avengers. Jerry Duggan did that run. A lot of people liked it, including me. David Pepose has to come in and kind of do that, but at the same time, not only does he have to take over a really good run that was a fan favorite, he now has to also write the swan song for Conan in the Marvel Universe. That's what he did in the first arc. Then what do? Then he goes into 2099 territory, and Marvel's dipped in and out of the 2099 stuff for a while now, and none of it feels like it captures the nostalgic magic of what the original felt like, at least to me being a kid reading Spider-Man 2099 and Doom 2099 and Punisher 2099 and Ghost Rider 2099 with some early Ashley Wood work. Come on, that stuff's awesome. However, this works. This works so well, and it was a very satisfying conclusion. I'm really excited for more work in the future at Marvel for David Pepose. Then we got Carnage here with issue #10. It's a book written by Robbie, one of my favorite creators here in this wonderful industry that we have, that we celebrate, called comic books. But I've been up and down on this Carnage book, right? But recently in issues, you start understanding what the full impact of his Carnage run is supposed to have. Like, this is actually big, weighty, cosmic level type stuff involving Carnage, and Rom has won me back over these last couple issues, especially with this issue. Again, we get a new iteration of Carnage, so I guess it could be a spec book. I'm the worst specker out there, but I will say that Carnage #10 was very exciting, and if you've given up on that book, maybe you just want to, like, pick it up and flip through it and see what's going on. Then we got Strange Academy Finals, issue #4, another solid book, great artwork by Humberto Ramos. The only problem, we are nearing the end of Strange Academy, and it doesn't feel, even though that things are getting epic, it doesn't feel like they're quite getting, like it feels like it's doing this. And now at the end, instead of going, it's going, boom. We don't need this. We need this. We need it. We need it to really hit a peak. There are things being put in place, but it doesn't, and sometimes it still feels like it's taking its sweet ass time. That being said, the artwork was great, and I still love the characters. And the growth on, God, why cannot remember the kid's name? Kid Dormammu. Starts with a D. Doyle, thank you, Marvel, thank you for that, Marvel. Well, nope, that wasn't it. Thank you, Marvel, for doing that. That really helped me out. The artwork is amazing. I really love Humberto Ramos, and this is some really nice, fun stuff. Anyway, the character work being done on Doyle is pretty awesome. Amazing Spider-Man number 20, concluding the Joe Kelly and Dotson's little filler story, kind of focusing in on the Black Cat, Mary Jane, Peter triangle, right? This love triangle. We do have promised the revelation about what actually happened between Mary Jane and Peter in the next issue. I am excited to see Zeb Wells returns with John Romita Jr. to explain that. It's been 20 issues. That being said, I thought most of this issue was dumb. I didn't really like it, but I did like the end when Peter and Felicia kind of come to an agreement. And I thought that was a nice little touch. Then we got Thor number 31. Just like Nightwing, this is a $4.99 issue for no goddamn good reason. It's here because there's a backup story. I apologize for saying the GD. I'm trying to say that less. But it really bothers me when they put just these stupid, silly backup stories in there and then charge us $1 more. I used to try to be real cool with that. Be like, nah, at least if they got to raise the prices, at least they're giving us something. No. Charging me $1 more for 8 pages that I don't want, that aren't interesting, that I don't even read half the time, that's kind of crap. You know what's also kind of crap? Thor right now is kind of boring, and it's kind of dull. And then let me be brutally honest here. This is Betsy Braddock, Captain Britain, number 1. This is a new book out. It's written by Teenie Howard. I looked at it, saw it was written by Teenie Howard, realized, oh, this is the next step of Excalibur, Knights of X. Yeah, I didn't like any of those, so I didn't read this. But I did make an effort to bring it home to show you that this book is out. But I didn't read it. All right, from Dark Horse, we got Blue Book issue number 1. This was a Substack book, I believe, from James Tynan's Substack. Where else would it be from? With Michael Avon Oming on the artwork and Aditya Bidikar doing the lettering. I really like this book. So it's telling us the story of Betty and Barney Hill, right? It's one of the most famous alien abduction stories out there. And that's what it does. It just kind of tells us that story. It's not really doing anything different with it. It's just factually telling us the story of Betty and Barney Hill, which I think is really fascinating. And of course, we got this monochromatic bluish tint to it by Michael Avon Oming. But then when the red shows up, I like that effect. I like it a lot. Then in the back, we get this True Weird Presents like backup story about Coney Island with artwork by Klaus Janson, where he is using the hell out of some digital screen tone to some interesting effect. Klaus Janson is the master of texture in comic book art. So I really loved seeing what he was doing with digital screen tone there. Then we've got Pink Lemonade issue number 6. This is the final issue, hopefully for now, of Pink Lemonade, because this book has been amazing, and it's been one of my favorite new characters since Hellboy and Madman. Like, seriously, this is a charming character filled with positivity. It's an intriguing book that's got a lot of style and a lot of flair to it. I adore this book. In the conclusion, I have said this book was charming and positive and bright and upbeat, but at the same time, it's critical of brands. It's critical of corporations. It's critical, and I mean this in a way, of the way corporations are handling their intellectual property and how they handle the creators of those IPs that they're making billions off of, right? There's a lot of books that do that and explore that, but none of them do it without the bitterness. This book never feels bitter. It never feels sour. It never feels negative. It always has this bright, bubbly, upbeat thing to it, and the artwork is astounding. The coloring, The line work, it's simple, but there's so much detail in every single bit, and it is incredibly funny. Makes me chuckle, makes me laugh out loud, and warms my heart. Pink Lemonade from Nick Cagnetti, issue 6 out this week, and look at that. That's that Levi ad. That's that Levi ad that's on the back of all... That's another thing that Nick does with these books, is he's like throwing out these old ads from like the late 90s and stuff, and I just love it so freaking much. Oh my goodness. I just noticed that. It was a live reaction. Frank Miller presents Ronin Book II, issue number 2. Oh my goodness, I love this book so much. So it is a sequel to Frank Miller's Ronin. If you've never read Frank Miller's Ronin, do it. Do it. It's one of my favorite Frank Miller books, and I would highly, highly encourage you to check it out, recommend it. Maybe one day we need to do like Comics Revisited or something on it. But Ronin Book II has not disappointed me. Now, it is written, edited, created, and laid out by Frank Miller, but Philip Tan and Daniel Henriquez are doing the actual line work, and it's awesome. Everything is a big double-page spread. It's written in a very Frank Miller-y kind of way, but I really liked it. It is a continuation of the story. How does it work for someone who's never read the original? Probably not very well, to be honest with you. I would read Ronin, then read Ronin Book II. What really highlights this, though, is that artwork. It is big and it's bombastic, and nobody does layouts like Frank Miller except for maybe like Kevin Eastman, right? And then you've got Philip Tan doing such an amazing job with Daniel Henriquez, providing that texture, providing that grit, that big, big splashy page. It's a big issue, but it doesn't feel long. It doesn't feel like you're stuck in it. It doesn't feel dull, doesn't feel boring. I love the hell out of this book. I think it's amazing. Then we got a new one from May. It's hot. I still won't turn it on. I won't turn on the AC. I'm going to turn it on as soon as I'm done with this video. Then we got Godfell, number 1, a new one from Vault Comics. And yeah, let me think about this. No, hold on. Let me go back. I got to do a test. I got to do a test. Side-by-side test. Smell of the week goes to Ronin Book II. So there you go. So now we got the pick of the week, cover of the week, and the smell of the week. But Godfell number 1 is an interesting enough story. It's about this woman. She's a barbarian. She's a warrior in a world where everybody's forced to be warriors in these endless wars for the rich and the elite or whatever. She decides to leave that war, and she goes off on her own. She winds up with this young companion. And they go, in this world, like, gods fall from the sky. So it's like this giant godlike creatures falling from the sky. It's like they built a city in it or something. It didn't really completely wow me. It didn't really have a great sense of dynamism to it. It was kind of, it wasn't stagnant. It wasn't stiff. It wasn't necessarily boring. It was interesting, but it didn't feel exciting. It didn't feel ultra thrilling. Has some cool ideas, has some cool concepts, but the characters didn't necessarily stand out. Even the world building didn't necessarily stand out. There's some interesting stuff here. There's some nuggets here. And I'm interested to see if Christopher Sabella and Hennessy and Farrell and Campbell can kind of push that forward a little bit and focus on what worked and some of those ideas and elaborating on it and making, I don't know, there was something about this that just was a little bit off, but it was still enjoyable. Then we got Barbaric, Hell to Pay, issue number 2. This book was hilarious. Seeing Owen the Barbarian in hell in this never-ending battle with frog people and all the references to the frog people, that's great. Plus, we're understanding and learning more about the past of Owen. Super interesting. If I had to nitpick one thing, it's like when we get back to Soren and the others, I just want to get back to Owen in hell. But not saying that the Soren and company character or and the company story is boring, because it's not. But I am so ready to get back to Owen in hell, just going through all the ridiculousness that he is. And like I said, building up that past, world building at the same time, you're doing something fun and progressing the story forward. Yeah, Michael Morisi, Nathan Gooden, Addison Duke, Jim Campbell. Y'all know what the hell you're doing. There you go. From Whatnot, we got a new book, Liquid Kill, issue number 1. I didn't like it. I haven't liked a single Whatnot comic. I hate to say that. By the way, if you've never signed up for Whatnot, you can get $15 of Whatnot credit at whatnot.com/invite/TheRockinRobbie. That being said, I haven't liked a single comic book from Whatnot Publishing. They're interesting. They got some good art. This got some good art. What's it about? I have no idea. I read it. I read this book. I have no idea what's going on. No idea who the people are, what the world is. No idea. There's an assassin. There's violence. What's going on? I have no idea. No idea. And the artwork's fine. But it's not telling me a story. I don't get it. And the coloring is way too dark. I can't see it. I don't know. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. Then we got Something is Killing the Children. Issue number 29. Really liked this issue a lot. We got the House of Slaughter actively going after Erica right now. That's cool. Then we got elements within the House of Slaughter acting out against one of their own. Some really intriguing things happening here in the pages of Something is Killing the Children. I was down on this book for a while, but in the last few issues, it's really gotten my excitement level back up, and it's really been able to find an identity outside of just that first initial big story that it told, right? And now it's diving in, it's expanding, and it's doing some really interesting stuff. So Something is Killing the Children, number 29. I told y'all, it's a great week, because we're not even done. Once Upon a Time at the End of the World, issue number 4. Holy cow, you get a lot of backstory on, what's her name? Mezzy. It's Esmeralda, right? But Mezzy. We get a lot of backstory on her, and while we're delivering that backstory, we're getting a lot of world building about this world, this post-apocalyptic world in which this young woman, Mezzy, meets this young dude named Masio, and they form this unlikely friendship. She's a survivor. He's kind of coddled. He's kind of helpless, but he's an inventor. They form a bond. They're out there together. He's been captured by her former people, finding out more about her past in this issue while he's being tortured, while she's dealing with, should she go save him? Should she go off and survive on her own? And it's just such a great written comic. Jason Aaron is really on top of his game here. And Alexandre Tefinki, fantastic freaking artwork. That book is great. Then we got Specs issue number 4, the final issue of this series from David M. Booher, Chris Sheehan, and Roman Stevens. I really loved the conclusion of Specs. Specs is a story about these two friends. One of them is struggling with some of his sexual identity issues. He is a gay man. He hasn't really come out or admitted it yet, right? He's kind of in love with his friend, and he doesn't want to admit or talk about that. But the story is about these glasses they find that when you put them on, you make a wish, your wish comes true. So they wish one of their bullies away. Then his friend, who he's secretly in love with, winds up getting accused of murdering this bully who gets whisked away out of reality because of the specs. And this conclusion as to how David and Booher knows how to do a 4-issue story. Not a lot of people do, but he does. He was able to really have a great punchy ending that had a lot of effect, a lot of resounding and resonating impact on me. I loved this book. I thought it was great. Christian does a great job of handling the emotion of it, as well as the more comic booky out there moments. This was incredibly well done. Specs number 4, a great conclusion to what has been a great story. Then Damn Them All is here with issue number 5. Cy Spurrier, this is a overly verbose book that I love. It takes me too long to read it. Every time it's in my stack, I'm like, oh man, I should just drop out of it so I don't have to spend 15 minutes reading this book. And for me, that's a long time, right? But man, every time I finish this book, I really enjoy the hell out of it. It's kind of like some of the lingering ideas that Cy Spurrier probably had for his Constantine run, or some lingering ideas that he wasn't allowed to use, because there's some real like magical lore going on here, and really great stuff. And there's been this mystery. It's like, what if Constantine was murdered and his magician niece had to go and solve his crime? Well, you get a little bit of a resolution here, and it really sets up some interesting stuff to come. So I love this book. I love the way it handles the mythology and the way it also shows that. Charlie Adler does a great job there. Then we got Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles issue number 3. Best issue of volume 2 of this series yet. Ryan Pear's doing a great job of just taking some ideas, crisscrossing them, right? So we've already seen the Turtles become Rangers. What if we reverse that? And I'm not going to try to spoil it, but I just kind of did. But what if you reverse that? I think we're going to get a whole new line of action figures out of this book. And I'm all for it, because there's some really big, exciting things happening here, especially with the aid of Dan Mora's artwork. Incredibly dynamic, supercharged, handling all the emotional bits. Shredder's having to team up with the Power Rangers and the Turtles against Rita Repulsa and Krang and the invaders from Dimension X. Come on. Tell me you don't like that. Kitsune is here. It's the new one from Scout Comics. It's got a little bit of a Usagi Yojimbo vibe, but it's about a samurai fox who's blind, who's off doing samurai fox blind things, right? He's got a buddy. He's like, this is straight up like Usagi Yojimbo, but it tries to be way more violent, and there's some interesting twists and turns, and it does feel like there's like 2 or 3 stories going on here. They're just like small little vignettes that are get like threaded together, but I liked it. The lettering has some wonky bits, and some of the production stuff is a little wonky. Aside from that, I did think it was cool, though it does feel very much like Usagi, and Usagi is one of the best comics of all time, but Kitsune was pretty decent. Then we got Darkwing Duck issue number 2. I'm loving Darkwing Duck. 2 issues in, they're both self-contained stories. They feel like they could be episodes. And this one we get Quackerjack. They just feel like classic episodes of Darkwing Duck with a modern sensibility. The artwork is great. The story is great. It's written by Amanda Dibert, who I believe was an original writer on the series. I really like this book. I loved Darkwing Duck growing up in the 90s, so I was really excited for this to come back. Got to get that Ken Hazer, Dave Mazzucchelli homage there, but that book's really cool. Then we got Gargoyles here with issue number 3. This book does become a bit more action-centric here in issue number 3, but it still is just a bit too stagnant at times. And I guess that's been the word of the week. In a week where there have been so many great comics, a book that doesn't have that excitement, I don't know, like the artwork by George Cambadias, I'm messing up that name, I'm so sorry. The artwork is great. I love the artwork, and the story's starting to match that a little bit, but it is a little bit, sometimes when you could clearly just show it, it's telling, and it doesn't quite work out that balance. But then at the same time, maybe it's been so long since I've watched or read any of the Gargoyle stuff that I am very disconnected from it. And so it feels like Wiseman knows that and is trying to overcorrect people's disconnect from the property, but it's on Disney Plus. Just we can all go see it. So that's what I read. That's what I thought. But I want to highlight this. Look at this beautiful bad boy. We got Jim Rugg's Hulk Grand Design Treasury Edition. It is gorgeous. I've got the X-Men ones. I've got the Fantastic Four ones. He reprints letters from the Hulk. He reprints famous covers. This is an excellent book. He's made some changes here and there. Big, oversized, and in Jim Rugg fashion. If you got a black light, this is black light responsive. And that's the coolest damn thing ever. So, I'm not going to say I'm giving Pick of the Week again to Hulk Grand Design, but definitely got Collection of the Year so far. Still got a lot of year to go. So, yes, Hulk Grand Design by Jim Rugg. Check that out. But to recap, Gargoyles was just okay. Darkwing Duck was awesome. Kitsune, kind of like Usagi, not as good, but decent. Power Rangers Turtles was freaking awesome. Damn them all. Damn, that book, still just reeling me in. Specs was a great conclusion. Once Upon a Time at the End of the World was phenomenal. Something is Killing the Children has got me right back into the level of excitement. Liquid Kill. What's a Liquid Kill even mean? I don't know. The book doesn't tell you. I have no idea what's going on there. Barbaric Hell to Pay was great. Godfell didn't live up to its potential for me. Ronin Book II, though, amazing artwork, and I'm there for it. Smell of the Week as well. Pink Lemonade number 6. I need more pink lemonade in my life. Blue Book was pretty interesting. I really liked that one. Captain Britain, didn't read it. Then we got Thor, hated it. Spider-Man, didn't really like it. Strange Academy, I'm digging it. It's still good. Carnage, I'm coming back around on Carnage. Savage Avengers, David, great job on this series. I really, really dug it. And you really accurately portray that nostalgic love for 2099. Fall Sunrise, no idea what happened, but loved looking at it. Immoral X-Men, didn't really like it. DCeased was freaking awesome. Superman Space Age was slightly disappointing to me. GCPD, The Blue Wall, one of the best written comics out there right now from the big 2 publisher. Black Adam kind of losing me. Flash, the weakest one of 1 Minute War. Nightwing was just alright for me. I hate that extra dollar for nothing I want. Batman, Superman, World's Finest, that's a nice cutesy fun throwback story. Clayface, this is another One Bad Day that was awesome. Lazarus Planet was very ineffectual in its ending. Superman was very effective in setting up a new era for the Man of Steel. Scorch comes with the cover of the week and some really interesting team dynamics being explored there. Spawn Unwanted Violence, one of the best written Todd McFarlane scripts I've read in a while. But the bangers, though. Plush was fantastic. Lovesick was unsettling and still sexy. Saga continues to be Saga. Junkyard Joe was masterful. Ice Cream Man was top-notch. Local Man was awesome, plus it gave us a foil cover. But the pick of the week is 20th Century Man number 6. Dennis, you killed it. Y'all killed it. You, the team, you have nailed it. This was freaking awesome. Best issue of the series, and one of the best series I've read in the last 10 to 15, 20 years. It's so good. Anyway, That's what I read, that's what I thought. What are you reading, what are you digging? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And join us over at patreon.com/PCP if you want to help support the channel. I've been rocking Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading. Station. Pop, pop. Boom.